That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about...
Damn.
Here today. It's the third theatrical feature directed by Billy Crystal, which Sony Pictures will be releasing May 7, 2021. Notably, it's his first stint behind the camera since 2001's television film 61 about Roger Maris and Mickey Mantle. But technically, it's his first theatrical feature since 1995's Forget Paris, in which he co-starred opposite Deborah Winger.
All right. I'll tell the basic story.
Sure.
Billy Crystal plays a character named Charlie. What's Charlie's last name?
Berns.
Charlie Berns. Charlie Berns is a veteran comedic writer, a very successful comedic writer. And we find him working at an SNL type show as a writer / consultant. When he says, I have to go to a lunch date, someone won me in an auction. So he's sitting in a restaurant when the auction winner shows up, Emma, played by Tiffany Haddish. Mm-hmm. And we find out Emma doesn't know who this man is. She took the ticket from her ex-boyfriend, who she has left because he cheated on her. So they have lunch, and Emma has a severe allergic reaction to the seafood she's eating and gets taken to the hospital. She tells the doctor Charlie is her adopted father. Mm-hmm. So they give him the forms to sign and the medications to fill. Emma doesn't have insurance, so Charlie ends up spending like almost $2,000 for this hospital visit. He's also given medication and is told that he needs to give this to her within the next hour or she'll die. Even though she could just stay at the hospital for an hour. But anyway, so he takes her home, gives her the shot, and she says, I'm going to pay you back, even though he insists it's not necessary. So she ends up finding him, giving him some cash. Charlie, we find out, has a form of dementia, so he's losing his memory. We also see him having flashbacks. We also learn he has a daughter and a son. He seems to have a very strained relationship with his daughter. His daughter also has a daughter of her own who has a bar mitzvah coming up, which Charlie is to attend. Charlie and Emma grow close, closer than what makes sense to me, but she ends up going to the bar mitzvah with him. They deepen their connection. Things culminate when Charlie has sort of an episode on the live television show he writes on, which happens to go viral. As a result, he goes to the doctor and it's explained to him that they believe he has a rare form of dementia and he has about a year before he loses all of his faculties. So he should either get his family to take care of him or get a nurse. And that's when Emma, Tiffany Haddish's character, pipes up and says, I'll do it. I'll give up my life for a year to take care of this man.
Like, without a beat, just...
So she does. When one day, Charlie's granddaughter, the girl who had the bar mitzvah, shows up at his house unannounced. She has run away from home because her mom said mean things about my grandpa, that he's a drunk and he's the reason grandma is dead. So we find out that Charlie's dead wife, Carrie, died in a car crash many years prior after they had gotten into an argument in the city over his work and never being home with the kids. And then they live in this lake house 2 hours north. Mm-hmm. So on her way home, she crashed and burned. Okay. The family doesn't know, Charlie's daughter and son don't know he has this form of dementia, so the daughter thinks he's just a drunk who doesn't care about his family. That's not really fleshed out fully why she thinks he's a drunk, except that she saw him on live TV having a meltdown. But this visit where his granddaughter shows up unannounced, they end up leaving to go to the lake house. But no one knows where they are. So there's a moment where there's panic, like, is everyone okay? They rendezvous. Charlie tells his daughter and son what's going on. They have a big happy moment. And then we flash forward 3 months? or 4 months. We flash forward a number of months, and we see that everything's kind of like they're all copacetic. They're a happy little family, except Grandpa's losing his mind. And the final scene of the film is them at the lake house, kind of like looking off into the...
Re-engaging in a ritual, and the camera pulls out. And...
The end. All right.
So it was based on a short story by Alan Zweibel, who was also co-writer of the script. Notably, Zweibel was one of the initial writers of SNL, wrote for Gary Shandling, Gilda Radner, Martin Short, another television project for Billy Crystal, I believe maybe some Curb Your Enthusiasm as well. So very, well-known, established writer. So basically, Crystal is kind of playing a version of Zweibel.
I'm just going to go down my notes. Billy Crystal's starting to look like Hector Elizondo.
Sure.
When Emma shows up to the restaurant to meet Charlie, because Emma doesn't know who Charlie is, she's walking around and we can see on her phone, she has his Wikipedia page pulled up and the photo is clearly from like the 90s. So she's just walking around to random white men like, oh, no, you're not him. No, you're not him. And then when she finally meets him, she's like, oh, you took a couple punches.
Yeah.
Because he does look markedly different. I thought that was funny. We find out that the winning bid was only $22. And he's like, oh, $2,200. She's like, boy, $22. What are you talking
And it went up by 50-cent increments.
Yeah, and the starting bid was $20, and it went up by 50-cent increments.
So there's this big to-do where she's ordering like a seafood salad and ordering all this extra seafood, and of course her face immediately swells up, a lot like the part in Hitch with Will Smith.
Or on Martin, the TV show Martin, when Gina eats the avocado, she has the avocado mask and has that big ass. I thought it was funny. So
that's kind of like one of the film's very few kind of slapstick, like truly comedic moments.
Well, let's just start with that. I guess
there's nothing else in the film that matches that level.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think, okay, what do I like about this film? Billy Crystal.
Yes.
There's a reason he's like a comedy legend. He is so fun. He's such a great comedic actor. And that's that. But I think the script is not good. There's too much going on. A lot of it doesn't make sense to me. There are a lot of characters that I think should be likable that are not likable. The resolve is just so like slapshod. And the worst part of it is not only the connection between Emma and Charlie, but Emma in general.
Yeah.
And we can get into the like magical Negro phenomenon, but yeah, I just don't.
So Tiffany is very much doing her thing, where she really excels when it seems like she's kind of allowed to do her thing, and when the script necessitates her to pull back in, it's where it feels a little forced.
Which there are only 2 scenes where I thought Tiffany Haddish's brand of comedy, which is sort of the more like improv, slapsticky variety, works, and that's when she has the allergic reaction, and when Emma bumps into her ex-boyfriend and tells him like, I moved on, I have a new boyfriend. Oh, you want to meet him? He's right over here, and it's Charlie, and they meet. That scene worked very well. Aside from that, she seems so out of place. It's very obvious that she's like, I don't know. I'm not questioning her acting, but I think in this film, I am basically. I just don't think her acting is strong in this movie.
It's not. And it's really weird. And I almost wonder, as this was written, if maybe it was written for a white person, maybe they got Tiffany Haddish, Tiffany's experiences, because she's converted to Judaism, correct, and used to be a party entertainer at bat mitzvahs. She speaks to that at length in her stand-up. So I don't know if it's because they got her and they were allowed to do this, but the way her character is conceived, the way that relationships only make sense, this is a woman in need. And it's like they scrub out her backstory, and I don't know if it's because they got a black woman and they didn't want to have a backstory rife with stereotypes.
I'm convinced that it's what you said. They probably hired Tiffany Haddish because there's a scene in the bar mitzvah where she's like the party starter and she's singing.
She sings a Janis Joplin cover.
Right.
She sings several songs in this film.
She does. And I think maybe like they got her to do that and then decided to maybe build this character out. I'd be very curious to know how this character came about because it just doesn't fit at all.
I think, I don't know, when white people are directing black characters or writing them, I think, of course they don't want to seem like they're stereotyping, like maybe she was down and out. But then if that's the case, then they do kind of make her seem like this magical Negro that's there to just support the lifespan and sources of the white characters, but for no real reason.
No real reason. Also, when she decides to give up, when she says, I'll take care of Charlie for presumably a year, that's after we find out, and Charlie knows this too because she's told him. So her dream is to be a singer, and that's apparently how she makes money, is she's like a street performer. She's been offered a 4-month like touring contract, and after the tour is complete, she'll get to record an album. And she just gives all that up to take care of this man.
There's something very special needed to happen between them for her to do that. And then I also kind of wish that character had been portrayed by an older actress, maybe like a Loretta Devine, somebody that maybe can sing, would have helped if they're going to make her sing. That said, I do appreciate that it is Tiffany Haddish performing because that helps keep you in it. But somebody that's a little older, a little more down and out, and a little more in need of this relationship as well as the Charlie Berns character.
Okay, quickly. When Charlie takes Emma home from the hospital, he's supposed to give her an epinephrine shot in her butt. And when the name of her band is Slippery When Wet, but she has a tattoo of Slippery When Wet on her butt. Like, okay. The way she first finds Charlie after the hospital is she Googles his name and his address, finds him. And instead of just knocking on the door, there's this ridiculous scene where like it appears someone like hit her.
And she's knocked over in the garbage can.
And she's like in the garbage can. It's a lot.
She skinned up her knee.
Okay. So a big part of the film is Charlie's life at work at this SNL type show. So there are probably like 5 scenes where we see like some of the comedy writers in the writing room going over sketches. We see actual sketches. I didn't understand why that was necessary. It doesn't add anything to the story.
I agree, but I also found myself being most kind of interested in those scenes and seeing where they would go, but yeah, they don't.
So, because I think this story is so ridiculous and overly complicated, I think because there are sort of 3 main directions. It's Charlie losing his memory because of dementia. So then how does that relate to his daughter and son? Or how does that relate to his new black lady friend, which would have been derivative? Or how does that manifest in his successful career as a comedy writer? And maybe him struggling to lose the funny. And I think if they had to pick one, that would have been the better one.
Yeah,
to focus on him at this show in the writing room and him dealing with the loss of memory and still managing to be funny.
They do finally incorporate that in one of the film's better scenes where he goes off during a live taping where it's a character played by Matthew Broussard who has
a manner of speech that annoys Charlie.
He always makes the wrong emphasis on words.
Right.
And he just goes off and it becomes a viral sketch.
But what bothered me about all of the scenes with the writing room is I didn't like... So the lead writers, the producer, they were so annoying. There is like sort of a new writer named Darren.
Daryl, played by newcomer Andrew Durand.
He was the only character who I thought actually felt like I felt something.
Yes, I felt like instantly drawn to seeing more of that mentorship and like because he's an underdog and the other writers don't really like him. He's always off by himself, and I don't know if it's just like you can easily relate to that lonely boy syndrome. But
Charlie's kind to him.
I think it's the kindness and the empathy that, without a lot of clunky dialogue, we're able to tap in very easily.
There is a scene, Charlie or Daryl writes a sketch about like stinky bathrooms, and it's punctuated with someone impersonating Jeff Goldblum, which I thought was very funny. Okay, there are flashbacks are used as a device heavily, and I thought they were so crunchy.
They were.
Because they're just so
heavy-handed.
Heavy-handed because it's like we get it. There's something that happened in the past.
This trauma with
There's
your
some
wife.
trauma with your wife, but it's like they're just giving us little like crumbs. This is not Silence of the Lambs. Like, just tell us what happened.
Crumbs that you put together very easily. And I know you had a big problem with Louisa Krause playing
Who's that?
Carrie.
Oh.
Because we only see her because she died some years ago. So Billy Crystal's voice is always out of frame, speaking to her in these.
But all the flashbacks look like someone's holding like a camcorder.
Yes.
And I didn't like that. But that character of Carrie and the actor playing her were so unlikable to me.
I find
Charlie keeps referencing the pain he feels for like the loss of his wife. So I'm thinking I'm gonna fall in love with the wife. I'm gonna fall in love with her. Mm-hmm. It's gonna be like Old Girl in Beaches, you know, just like this warm fuzzy feeling.
Which one? Barbara
Hershey. I was hoping that she was gonna be like Barbara Hershey in Beaches.
Okay, sure.
Like I'm just gonna be like, oh, I just adore her. I couldn't stand Carrie. She was so damn annoying. Oh, when they first meet and just like she's trying to be, he even says like he thought she was so beautiful because of how she made him laugh. Mm-hmm. And it's like, so this genius comedy writer thinks she's funny? She's not funny. Then so we get the flashbacks of how they met, because there's another device that's used where Emma sends Charlie memoji messages, because she knows he's losing his memory, so she's trying to remind him of like things so he'll start writing, because he's trying to write a book for Carrie. So the first time she sends him the memoji message, it sparks the memory of how they met, and then we see on the screen the words he writes. And then she does it again and he recalls the lake house or something. Mm-hmm. But anyway, then we see Carrie. He recounts the story of when his son Rex was born at a museum, and he's named Rex because she gave birth in the museum underneath the fossils of the skeleton of the Tyrannosaurus Rex. But that scene was so grating. She was so unlikable to me. She's trying to be cute and funny, and it's not working.
She's a character actress that really excels at playing like edgy, troubled, brittle women in everything I've seen her in. So yeah, I think her casting was curious, but
then we see her when he tells us there's another thing about this painting. There's like clearly like a hole in the wall where a painting used to be that Charlie took down, and then Emma puts it up. He gets upset, and then she finally says like, you need to like. He wants the painting back, and he explains the meaning of it, which is the lake house. And it's like, I sometimes these films that feature these like rich, privileged people, and then it's like, why do you choose to tell stories that accentuate how much money you have? For example, when Carrie wants to find the lake house, Charlie says, it would have been easy for us to just build a house on the lake. Like, okay, that must be nice. But no, Carrie couldn't do that. Carrie went around looking for a house she liked. She bought the house and then had the house moved on a truck, and then laid new foundation and had it. And I just thought like, first of all, that story is just like gag me with a spoon. But then her, like every shot of her and how she looks, like look at me, all my money, and it just didn't make her likable. And I'm not saying like just because I can't relate to that, I can't like her. But it's like, who saw this, like, who read this and thought she's fun and likable, and then, I know, make her just spend money like nothing. Then the final scene of her when Charlie's explaining how she died, she's very upset that he spends so much time working, but they don't explain what she does. Right. So who's paying the bills? She was driving a fancy convertible. Who paid for that? You haven't seen your kids in 4 months. You're always working. I need a background on that. Like, explain that, because otherwise she just seems like, I don't know, like a spoiled harpy.
Sure. That was the scene that she looked the best in, I thought. This, to me, felt... you kept bringing up, like, how it felt like a Woody Allen film. To me, it felt like if someone like Henry Jaglom...
Not a good Woody Allen film.
If someone like Henry Jaglom tried to make a Woody Allen film in his later period, is if you know who those people are. That's what that sounds like.
I liked how the film looked, but a lot of it felt like maybe they didn't have full access to the areas they were in because there are a lot of close shots with not a lot of people. For example, they go to Madame Tussauds Wax Museum, Emma and Charlie, like on a day date, like a fun day off date. And yeah, it just felt so empty and...
I'm sure something like that. It was shot by Vanja Cernjul, who is the cinematographer on Crazy Rich Asians. Yeah, I'm sure that they had limited access. But, you know, Billy Crystal, there's a scene where he's at a Q&A for a celebration of his first script that was made.
Oh, that's right.
In made a film called Call Me Anytime, which Barry Levinson apparently directed, starring Sharon Stone and Kevin Kline. So all three of those actual people are there in a sequence, which was interesting. And again, those things felt the most authentic about it, about this kind of project, while everything else felt like schmaltzy fantasy.
When Emma goes to the bar mitzvah, Charlie gets a phone call where she's asking, like, what should I wear? And then apparently she says something vintage. And then he says, well, not too vintage. And she shows up in like a flapper dress and her hair done a sort of like finger wavy, like a bob with finger waves. And I thought when she was sitting there, she looked like Viola Davis in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom.
I thought a couple of her outfits were kind of cute. The hats specifically.
Oh, we didn't talk about that. They make her look so eccentric.
They do.
She wears hats and she has birds clipped in her hair and all her outfits
Every
are like...
now and then she looks cute though.
No,
like,
she dresses like, what's her name? Jade from Family Reunion on Netflix.
The daughter?
Yes.
God,
Just frumpy.
Looks better than that.
Frumpy with weird hair and like, I mean... Emma's hair's not the worst. It's very wiggy, but it's not the worst. But just like her outfits are all like clashed and then, you know, again, Tiffany Haddish wasn't in fighting form during filming of this. Like she looks like she's on a heavier side. So the way they style her is just like, it doesn't help anything.
But again, it begs like the backstory of this character. Like, where are you living in New York? And
because she seems like a bag lady.
Yes, like
and she's a street performer.
Like, are you like Brenda Fricker in Home Alone 2? Like, where are you living and how are you doing so? Because she looks too good for really the scant details that we do get.
Right.
But are suggesting this kooky eccentricity is because she doesn't have access to it.
And then doesn't have health insurance.
Right.
So this man pays for her medical bill. He's rich and says, don't worry about it. She insists on paying him. She gives him money twice with every intention of paying all of it back. But it's like, girl, you should take that money and get some Obamacare. Like, I don't understand why. Like, yeah, like you said, there's not enough backstory to understand why she's doing this. Charlie's daughter, Francine, was so annoying. She's just mad at her dad because when she was a little girl, her mom died. And because she understood adult relationships back then, she thinks her dad drove the mom to kill herself.
Both his adult children include... So Francine is played by Laura Benanti and Rex is played by Penn Badgley. And both of them are so stiff, they have nothing to do.
Penn Badgley seemed like he had no chemistry with his dad. And the first scene we see him in, they're playing tennis. And it was so stiff that I was like, oh, that must be like a junior writer on the show. And then he goes...
It's so stiff that... The writing in that scene too is like, you're going to do that to your only son. And then in the very next scene calling him dad. It's like
why did you need to say that if you're going to call him dad like 2 seconds later?
We'd figure it out.
Yeah.
But...
my final note is I just don't like most of these characters. I like Billy Crystal's character and I like the little supporting guy, Daryl, the writer. Mm-hmm. But I think Tiffany Haddish is just, you know, she has a specific brand of comedic acting that works. Mm-hmm. Sometimes. But I don't know. This felt very... What's that movie that with Tommy Davidson and Damon Wayans? The Minstrel Show.
Oh, Bamboozled.
This is a little too bamboozled for me. Like her doing this movie just like...
Well, you know, I made that claim against that Eddie Murphy movie, Mr. Church, and you got upset with me. But I still maintain that movie...
I don't recall enough to support what I said right now.
Where he's like taking care of that young white girl, and only at his funeral does she find out that he had his life outside of her.
Sure. Well,
also Anna Deavere Smith I thought was good in her small roles as his doctor.
She was all right. Yeah,
she's usually pretty solid.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. My final note is Tiffany Haddish like the new Mae West? where she's just gonna, like, every movie she's in, she's kind of the same, and then she demands to, like, sing a couple songs. Because she sings, like, 4 songs in this movie, including the final song that goes into the end credits. It's kind of like a country western song. Tiffany Haddish is not a singer.
The other 2 or 3, I was like, okay, these are serviceable, but that final song...
No, they reminded me, they are on the level, there's a movie on Amazon Prime called Cherry Pop.
Oh, God.
About some drag queens in a bar. It's a terrible movie.
It is.
But the only good part of the movie are the musical numbers these drag queens do because they're original songs. And they're not great songs. I felt like the songs Tiffany Haddish sings are on that level.
Right. Tiffany, Mae West singing is caterwauling. It is... It's of that style of the 30s and 40s, though, too. And Tiffany
she's the 2020s Mae West.
Like, it's not that bad.
It's not good enough for her to be a singer. Like,
right.
She makes it that character makes it a point to explain her parents are musical and they taught her how to harmonize, and that's what she does for a living. And she has, like, gigs, and she's going on a tour, and she sounds like that. It's just out of control.
Yeah, I agree.
What would you give this movie?
2 out of 5.
I would give it 2 out of 5 as well. Only because Billy Crystal was good. Anything else?
No.
Bye.
Bye.